As you can see behind me, big surf here at Bronte Beach in Sydney's east, and it's a similar scene across much of coastal New South Wales this morning, particularly with that really strong surf and strong winds on the south coast of New South Wales. Now, we've seen 6.5 metre swells at Bateman's Bay in southern New South Wales overnight. Now, 35,000 people are currently without power across the state of New South Wales. We'd earlier been saying 25,000, but that figure has been revised only in the last few hours. And as you were saying this morning, there are a number of communities, particularly around the Illawarra and the south coast regions of New South Wales, that may effectively be cut off due to rising floodwaters. And a major concern from the SES is that possible evacuation routes for communities that are in danger, particularly as a result of this strong surf and coastal erosion, may potentially be cut off from crews. Let's take a quick listen to what the SES had to say.
On the south coast, as you mentioned, we've had some significant impacts in Baril Lake, Lake Conjola and Lake Tabourie. What we've seen is that storm surge coupled with high tide pushing into those lakes at the same time. They've experienced significant rainfall in their catchment areas. So the water landing on the ground has not been able to get out to sea, and we've actually seen some properties get overflow flooding around Baril Lake.
There are currently more than 28 warnings across the state of New South Wales. 7 of those are emergency warnings. Now, on the south coast, we're particularly seeing the area around Sanctuary Point and Lake Burrell currently in serious danger. We've had an emergency warning there, particularly around major flood warnings and the risk of rising floodwaters. But we've also seen communities on the central coast being impacted by coastal erosion, particularly around Wamberal and the North Entrance, which is near Terrigal on the central coast. There are 29 homes in particular that the SES have major concerns about, particularly as a result of this coastal erosion. Now, across the state, we've seen more than 2,300 calls to the SES over the last few days, and there are more than 1,200 volunteers currently on the ground across the state, particularly in coastal areas, sandbagging and preparing for the worst. Now, we've heard from the SES and the Bureau of Meteorology that conditions are expected to get worse throughout the day before the system is expected to tail off into the Tasman Sea at some point tomorrow. But here in Sydney, there are advice level warnings in south and northwest Sydney. We've seen potential flooding on the Georges and Nepean River in southwest Sydney. There's also concerns for Richmond and Windsor, north of Sydney, near the Hawkesbury River, for potential minor flooding there as well. We're also hearing from Sydney Airport. We saw major delays and cancellations yesterday, and it's very much the same story today. 12 flights have so far been cancelled. We've also seen major disruptions on train lines as far as Newcastle. In Sydney yesterday, we saw 2 train lines effectively shut. We saw almost 100 passengers stranded for almost 2 hours travelling out to Penrith as a result of broken branches on the train line. So still very much a developing situation across almost all of coastal New South Wales. We have warnings running all the way from Bega on the south coast, effectively up to the Queensland border. But here in Sydney, conditions are certainly worsening. We've been here for the last 2 hours, and I can definitely say myself that the wind and the rain has certainly picked up. But as the Bureau is saying, we are expecting to see these conditions get worse throughout the day. Hopefully, better conditions due tomorrow.